Hi guys, Karen here, and today I'm doing something a bit different. I'm doing a canvas which I've not done before, and I started off by painting the canvas in this beautiful pink. I think it's called Cherry Pie. It's an acrylic paint by Dilutions, and these paints are just gorgeous to use. They go on, they're just so creamy and they go on so easily. And for some reason I decided that pink was going to be the colour for my background. So I've painted that, and the next thing I went into was my box of chipboard pieces. I've had these pieces for donkey's years. Probably one of the first things I bought when I started scrapbooking well over 10 years ago, and I've never used them because they're a bit too bulky for scrapbook pages. So finally I'm getting to use them. These are rectangular pieces, and the circle pieces are the ones I end up using. And so the first thing I'm going to do is to paint them with white gesso, which is quite a messy job, as you will see, just trying to get these little tiny pieces covered in white. And also you have to do it along the edges because they're a bit dark around the edges. So I just wanted to cover them all over in white gesso, and I got in a right old mess, as you'll be able to see in a moment. But I soon get them covered up. And they dry quite quickly, but while they're drying, I'm going back to my canvas, and I've got here some Heidi Swap Colour Shine in bronze and some Dazzlers in spun sugar, which is a sort of shiny paste. So I thought the two might go quite well together to make an interesting texture for my canvas, and it makes quite a nice colour there. It's a sort of beigey, shiny, beigey, satiny finish, which I rather like, and against the pink it looks pretty good. And this is a really old what they call it, not template, stencil, that I had from Scraptastic. They used to do with their kits, when you were a subscriber years ago, you used to get a little stencil every month, and this was one of those. I'm not sure if I've even ever used it before, but I thought it made rather a nice little design on the canvas. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just doing a little set of butterflies on each corner, and I like how that looks. I like the colour of that, and it's got a lovely shine to it. And continuing with the butterfly theme, I've got out some washi tape, some butterfly washi tape, and then another couple of pieces, just some black and white washi tape that I'm using, and that's got some music notes on it. And then do another piece going the other way in the other corner, and just doing a little bit of that, a bit of the musical one as well. And one final, I think there's a third piece going to go on in a moment. And just going across the other two, it's sort of birds on a wire, I suppose you'd call it, little birds going across that way and that way. So they're not exactly the same, but I think they just make a nice little design in the corners. And I'm just going to cover those bits of washi tape now with some clear gesso, just to make sure that they are firmly stuck on and that they are sealed to the canvas. And although it looks a bit white there, but it is clear gesso, so it does dry clear. You don't see the white once it's dried, but it does seal the washi tape and stops it coming away from the page or from the canvas. I found the canvas quite interesting to work on because, of course, all the central part is got no support on it. You only get the support around the edges, and so it's kind of springy to work on. It's a bit unusual, and it takes a bit of getting used to, is working on this kind of surface that's got no support underneath. So I'm just arranging my little chipboard shapes, my little rectangles across that corner, across from one corner to the top right down to the bottom left. So this is going to create a bit of dimension in the middle of the canvas, and I rather like how this turns out. I'm really enjoying this composition of pieces, of shapes, and I'm happy with that. So I'm going to stick those down using some matte gel medium is what I'm using here. You just have to be careful when you push them down onto the page because it's sort of springy. As I said, it kind of gives, which is quite strange. I'm just going to stick all these down in that sort of a way of going across from one corner to the other, so it leaves the butterflies still on display. And then I've got and a few circular pieces as well, Then I've got a few little chipboard pieces. They're from the Scrapignac company, and these are just little tiny delicate pieces I had left over from a previous layout that I did, or art journal page, I think. Just a few little pieces just to add some more dimensions. I'm just covering them in gesso. You didn't necessarily have to. They're very pale, the wood that's used, but I thought that it was all needed to be looking the same. So I've covered those in white gesso, and I'm sticking them on to the canvas with the other pieces. So you may have realised that I haven't been posting for a little while. I haven't posted for about, I think, 3 weeks. That's because I got a bit carried away with doing these canvases, and I did another one immediately afterwards, and I overdid it a bit, as is often the case with me. I got a bit overexcited with using all these new products, and of course I ended up in some pain, particularly with my shoulders. So I had to take a break. I had to go back to the osteopath, and so I'm just gently getting back into it now, and I couldn't even finish editing this video that I think I made about 3 weeks ago. So I finally got it done, and hopefully you'll see some more again coming up soon. I'll get back into it gradually. I've got a couple more things coming up that I will be posting soon, hopefully. So this is a chipboard piece by Do Crafts, a butterfly that I've just gessoed, and that's now drying. And again, I've gone back to get some more little pieces of chipboard out, again from this Scrapignac. I think this is a Polish company, and they do really, really fine chipboard pieces. They're very, very thin, very delicate. So you have to be quite careful when you're popping them out of the background page. So I just wanted a couple little flourishy pieces to put on there. And now I've got a little box of metal charms, really, I suppose. It's most of it's old bits of jewellery, and quite a lot of it belonged to my mum. And I've been hanging on to it for ages, thinking originally I might use it on a scrapbook page, but they're a bit too bulky for scrapbook pages, so I haven't really used them, and I've had them for quite a while. So I thought they'd be quite nice to just embellish this canvas with something. So I'm just picking out a few little pieces just to go on those circular chipboard shapes. Just going through the box and picking out a few small pieces that I'm going to pop onto my circles. So they're all different, but once they're all covered in gesso, they kind of blend in and just become one of the shapes. So I'm just arranging those little flourishy pieces as to where I might want them. And now I'm just going to stick on my butterfly into the centre there. That's been gessoed. Just putting that in the middle. And I'm just starting to put gesso now on to the little metal, little jewellery pieces, the little metal embellishments that I'm going to be adding to my canvas. I'm just going around and going over the whole lot. And also I shall be, as well as gessoing the metal shapes, and giving the butterfly another layer of gesso, because it was quite a dark piece of chipboard. I don't know if I mentioned it was by Do Crafts, which I bought. I've got quite a few different pieces by Do Crafts, and they're very inexpensive, and they make quite a nice centerpiece. Now, as you can see, I've added another, I think it was probably a brooch or something like that, or it might have been an earring in the middle there, which makes a lovely centerpiece for the butterfly. I actually had to cut out the piece of video where I stuck it on, because the lighting was so bad at that point, it just looked awful. So I had to edit the whole piece out. Now I'm adding some sprays. Now this is where it all goes a little bit pear-shaped, I think. So I picked out a load of sprays. So they're all different shades of pinks. There's a purple there. I think that's a Heidi Swap purple, and also the bronze. I had the thought that they would be a bit sparkly and they would be a bit lighter than they actually turned out to be. I'm really happy with the whole canvas composition at this point. But I think once I start adding the sprays, pink on pink, excuse me, really doesn't work. And I just kept going with it, kept trying to create some sort of contrast, kept spraying, kept adding all the different pinks. And it wasn't going well. I have to admit this was not a great success. Now I'm using some of the bronze to kind of give it a bit of darker around the dimension-y areas, and adding water. and it all looks a bit of a mess, a hot mess. I do more or less, sort of rescue it, but I have to keep working at it with lots of different things. This is a Shimmers paint called Pinko de Mayo. It's a sort of shiny, quite a light coloured, shiny pink paint, which I cover the butterfly with. I'm now lightening up the metal shapes again because I've sprayed them, and I'm putting more gesso on because I think I want them to stand out a little bit more. And I just keep adding and adding and adding, as you will see. I'm adding this Pinko de Mayo. Now I've got an acrylic metallic paint that I'm using. This one is called Pink Blush. So I'm applying that to some of the shapes as well. And I just kept, I did, the more I added, the more I really didn't like it. But I wasn't going to give up because I thought, well, this is the first time I've ever done it. I'm going to keep on trying. So I put some of that pink blush on, and actually that looks okay. And then I'm adding some white linen. That's the Dilutions white spray. And I've gone back to my spun sugar, which is this shiny paste that I used early on. And I'm just going to put that over that central little embellishment just to give that a bit of shine and make it stand out a bit more. And I was trying to think, and I've knocked back a lot of the pink and it looks a bit better. And I was trying to think how I could actually rescue those two, that area that's all covered in, well, it looks like just a muddy mess, really. And at one point I thought of putting flowers on it, but then I found this packet I'd bought a while ago of these little sparkly embellishments. So I thought, well, let's see how that looks. So I'm just adding embellishments, adding sparkle, and just to see whether I can actually rescue this whole canvas, because it was I was really getting quite disheartened with the whole thing at this point. But I thought, well, this is, it's all a learning curve when you're doing something new, and I'm very new to this art journaling business. So I thought, well, I'll just keep going. And I took out, this is a Nuvo Drops, it's crystal drops, and it's just the white one. So I thought I'd cover my, I wanted the butterfly to really stand out. So I thought I'd cover it with white spots, which I've done. And then I've got out a clear Stickles, that's the clear glitter glue. And I'm adding a bit of that to all my little embellishments to make them all sparkle and shine. I've really decided to go sparkly on this. I thought, right, let's just get some sparkle on this canvas and see if we can make it look any better. And it looks okay. I'm not too unhappy with it as it's finished up. I mean, it's not quite how I imagined, but then I didn't really know how it was going to go. So I'm just adding the stickles to all my little metal pieces, and then a couple more of the little charms, the little gems from the set, from these sparkly sets. So there you are. I'm just doing a bit of a close-up so you can see the butterfly with all its sparkle. You can see a bit closer up how it's ended up looking. And now I'm just adding a little bit of little phrases. So the phrases I've picked out were think different. Different is good, because this is a really different thing for me. It wasn't, as I say, it didn't turn out as well as I'd hoped, but I nearly didn't even post it. And then I thought, well, sometimes people can't always do everything perfectly. This is the first time I've done it, and sometimes it's interesting to see somebody doing something that didn't turn out perhaps quite as well as it could have done. But I did almost immediately go on to do another one, which I'm much happier with, and I will be posting that soon. So hopefully you will stick around and watch that one, which have turned out much better. You'll be glad to hear. So thank you for sticking with me, and do join me again soon. Goodbye.